The host is not allowing part. I can't. Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the dignitaries, teachers, students, and patrons present online on this amazing Saturday morning. We are delighted to have you here to participate and be present for the online seminar as part of the Celebration of Image 2021, hosted by Faculty of Business Administration, GLS BBA. We are a part of the legacy which has been handed down to us by the founding fathers like Sardar Patel, Ganesh Mavlankar, Kasturbhai Lalbhai, Sri I. M. Nanavati, who have established Gujarat Law Society Trust in 1927. GLS established GLS University under the visionary leadership of Sri Sudhir Nanavati with the intention to impact quality education in the changing times of digitalization. GLS IBA is a young undergraduate business school that has made a positive impact on people, companies, and societies in a short period of 23 years. We place education of people first as we realize that they are the future and they have a profound role to play in the building of a nation and a society. We give our students the best of faculties, exposure, lively, and an enriching environment to provide a platform to the emerging management graduates and to help them develop into well-nuanced personalities, our institute organizes Image, the Management Fest every year. It began as an intercollegiate fest in around 2002, and in the last 18 years, it has become an international fest. This year has been phenomenal. We've got participation from around 90 plus colleges with prominent colleges like IIM Indore, Raipur, IIM Kozhikode, IIM Udaipur, IIT Madras, IIT Mumbai, IIT Kharagpur, Sri Ram College, NMIMS, JBIMS, Christ College, NIT Trichy, NDI Gurgaon, and many, many more. Yesterday was day one of the event, and we had chief guest Captain Raghuraman sir speaking about harnessing disruption. Please do have a look on his amazing speech on our YouTube channel. Today is day two of the competition and a very, very important day for us. We start with our panel discussion on dealing with disruption. Let me start with introducing the panelists. We have with us Mr. Anshu Gupta. Good morning, sir. He is a very, very renowned Indian social entrepreneur. He has won the Magsaysay Award in 2015. His first exposure to the problems of the rural poor was in the Uttarkashi region, North India, in 1991 as part of the earthquake relief efforts. He currently works with his wife and his daughter at Goonj. He's the NGO that he's founded. He has also been awarded the Social Entrepreneur of the Year by the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship in 2012. Welcome to the panel, sir. The second member on the panel list is Mr. Francis Norman. He has worked as an instrumentation engineer from 1983 to 2006. He's a non-executive director as SICA, Subsea Innovation Cluster Australia. He's a member of the Engineers Australia since 1997 and has worked and has served it till 2015. He's a PhD in management where he investigated interpersonal communications in project virtual teams. In fact, from the research, what we came to know that he has been handling virtual teams from 2006. So that would be something we'll really want to know about, sir. Welcome to the panel, sir.
Thank you.
The next member on the panel is Sir John K. John. He is the Vice President, Corporate Learning and Development, at Reliance Industries, Mumbai. He's a graduate in economics from Loyola College, Chennai. He's done his postgraduate honors in personal management from Madras School of Social Work. He has around 25 years of experience in human resource function. He is a certified T3 Zig Ziglar trainer, level 1 certified Berkman consultant, and Gallup strengths coach, and a builder profile of 10 coach. He has also got experience on, he's also a trainer on making work across cultures, and he has conducted workshops for clientele across verticals with close to 1,500 plus customer employees. Welcome to the panel, John, sir.
My pleasure.
And we have with us the amazing Jignesh Visavda. He's presently an e-entrepreneur and a mercenary writer. He was the VP and cluster programming head with Radio Mirchi. Then he worked as a national programming head for My FM, where he was part of several pioneering projects. He personally headed the team that discovered and launched Chingam Boy. Today, he follows his heart and he does a lot of social networking. He writes weekly food columns for Times of India supplements, teaches at colleges, travels around the country and abroad, and spends time with his family. Life lessons. I think this was something that I read about his profile and really loved. Was he always says, "Don't conform to the rules, break it." Right. So, sir, welcome to the panel. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. That was great. Thank you.
The three words that shall describe the seminar today are communication, communication, and communication. The outstanding heritage, engaging personalities, and an exciting atmosphere of disruption collude as a special background to this seminar. I have no doubts that we'll experience a range of emotions and hear about a range of practical challenges that our esteemed members faced and how they overcame it. But I hope that you shall interact with them. The chat box shall be open. You can put in your questions as and when you feel and would want to know more about it. Now, the main person, the Sutradhar who's going to hold it all together is Miss Geeta Shkor. She is a dynamic personality who is an educationalist, a trainer, an image consultant, and a passionate teacher. She's the founder of the Skill School. She's an expert at making frowns into smile. As she dealt with students, she understood the need to understand adults more and hence studied psychology. The more she understood human behavior, the inclination towards understanding people skills set in. She has always fought like a warrior to achieve her dreams, and today she's one of the most amazing digital diva, leaving an impactful mark in everyone's heart. She is setting an example in the society and inspiring diverse people. So, ma'am, the stage is all yours. Please.
Thank you so much, each one of you. It is indeed a pleasure and delight to be sitting amongst these dignitaries and holding the conversation. Thank you so much, each one of you, for being a part of the panel. Mr. John, Jignesh Vasavra ji, Anshu ji, and Francis Norman. Thank you so much, each one of you. So, as we are going forward, we have all seen tough times where we understood the sudden engagement of work from home, the COVID situation, the newness around us, change of how we are even thinking, forget everything else. I would like to start this conversation with Mr. Anshu Gupta. While I was going through your profile, I realized that, oh my God, the most touching line that came across was of when I heard about the chill left many homeless people dead on the streets, the family picked up these dead bodies and gave it to the local morgue for a few rupees. A young girl, the daughter of the couple, had told him that she hugged the lifeless body of people when the nights became unbearably cold because the dead don't bother me. They never turn in their sleep. It just touched me. You have been working very, very extensively with providing food, groceries, and other necessary materials to daily wage laborers, etc. Now, before I go forward, I would like to know that any memorable moments across during the planning and execution of the same that you have been doing before moving ahead of how COVID struck and what was your plan of action then? But any memorable experience since I came across the line, I was like, okay, let me just start from here.
I think he need to be unmuted. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, and good morning to all. So I think the journey has been obviously of large number of memorable things, because someone who is coming from an average, beautiful middle class family from a small town. I mean, when I moved from Dehradun, we didn't even have red lights in Dehradun, and then I came and did my mass communication and all that. And I think in my life, the memorable experience certainly has been, and this is what I'm dealing with the students today. I'm talking to students today, and I say that the biggest disruption in life is that you need to bunk your classes, and you don't need to bunk your classes for the just for the movies and all. I mean, that's also very important. You should do that. If you have to roam around with a girlfriend and boyfriend and all that, that is absolutely important in life. But I think if you really move around and for certain for learning, for positive things, if you disrupt. When I in my course of journalism, and when I picked up my camera, and this earthquake which you just spoke about, Uttarkashi, happened, and I moved there for 15 days. I think that was the first time I realized what is cold all about. You know, why this person is asking me that give me a blanket, I'll die. Because I've grown in a middle class family where if nothing else, I have four walls and couple of I have access to a blanket over my quilt. Or when I moved out and met this girl, this little girl, and as young student of something, you can't imagine that someone is forced to sleep with a dead body to keep herself warm, because your urban education has been telling you that dead bodies are cold. Imagine, right? That's your urban education. You're not understanding the compulsion part of it. You can't imagine that a family is surviving by getting 20 rupees per dead body, and just for the disposal of it. That's their full-time job. You can't imagine that something which is so okay for me, and I choose the color of my sweater, fine? Every day,
Right.
I choose the color and the type and the brand of my sweater. But there are millions of people where the question is a sweater or no sweater.
True.
I think it's just a journey of all these things which you observe. तो मैं always in Hindi I tell people कि दो तरीके हैं देखने के, एक देखो, एक दूसरा है घूर के देखो. Either there are two ways of looking at things. One is that you see, and the other is that you observe.
True.
The second one is more important.
So this COVID time, when it struck, there was lockdown completely. What were the challenges that you faced? I mean, how difficult or how challenging it was for you to get back together to the stuff that you were doing?
Listen, I think one of the inherent thing in this institution, which is now almost 22 years, we started way back in 1998, and we are almost 1,000 people all across the country. And although a lot of people think that we are in the business of collecting and distributing clothes, that's what we don't do. We deal with 6,000 tons of material, and people say we are one of the largest rural development organizations. I mean, last year we made or repaired almost 400 kilometers of village roads and hundreds of water bodies by using second-hand material as a reward. I mean, we are moving it out of charity, right? So one thing which happened in our life is that we created a grid across the country. The way the telecom people have done, I know, John Saab is there from Reliance, and the telecom people have done that optical fibers, and now they're using it for multiple purposes. Similarly, we spread that grid across the country.
Right.
Only thing is, for us, the biggest challenge was that we are a hardcore logistics organization. Logistics in this particular time was the toughest thing to do. You had to reduce the human touch. The transports was not working. Roads were blocked, and you have to process the material that way. And in the same era where you bring half a kg of potato or onion and wash it for half an hour, so that the virus doesn't come in your life.
Right.
And you're dealing with tons and tons of material on a regular basis. So I think we just use the strength of the network, the strength of the learnings, the strength of knowing the community, and we absolutely localize. We said that why do we supply pulses from the cities? Why can't we procure just one simple example? There are hundreds of such examples, just to give you a sense of it. So why pulses from the cities? Why not we actually procure vegetables from the farmers who were literally in Kolar in Karnataka, people were selling tomato for 50 paisa a kg, half a rupee. In Bihar, people were selling green chilies for 400 rupees a quintal, 4 rupees a kg. Can you imagine? It's not even the cost of seed, because there was no market operating, there were no trucks operating.
Correct.
So we procured more than 200,000 kgs of local vegetables in that phase itself. And then that became a part of the kit, and that became a substitute of the pulses. So that's how we really, literally reimagined, reinnovated a large number of things. And the toughest thing in these things is that how do you let go the systems or the processes which you have created in the last 2 decades? How do you make sure that you leave that attachment and say, boss, virus is new, things are new.
Right.
Within 2 days, 3 days, if you don't respond, then there is no point, and you have to let that go. Maybe something new will come up. And I think that's how we have been able to do.
Right. Wonderful. Picking up from that point, the words that you said, reimagined, reinvented, and human connection, I will put the question across to Mr. John. Now, online courses, what is the significance now? There is no human connection, there is no human touch. Children are just learning online. So will they be valued as strongly as the other college degrees? Like, will it become a necessity for a career growth?
Yep, that seems to be the order of the day. But like Anshu was talking about how things have changed, just to see one of my youngest daughter get up from bed straight away, sometimes even without brushing her teeth, putting her computer on and getting into an online program, has become a reality now. I mean, who would have ever thought that online education would transform this way, that you don't even get time to sort of dress up, make up, and then sit in front of your classes, but do it from home. That is a reality now. While that is going to stay, it's not going to be taken away. Online learning is going to stay for a long time, but it's got its place. You see, you can't do everything online, and you can't do it for long periods of time. Now, most of us need to understand that your body, after a certain point of time and the number of hours that you sit, will have its effect on the lower part of your body, your back, your neck, and everything else. Now, if you're going to learn most of your time just looking at a computer, you're going to end up having other issues to your body, whether it's sight, whether it's neck, whether it's your bone. That's going to be a reality. And that if you don't address that, that'll become another problem the world has to see. That's number one. Number two, that is very important that we need to keep in mind is the whole aspect of culture. One of the things I love to do is to talk about cultures, because culturally, India is very different. Now, the West is very different. The West is made very differently because the DNA and the structures are very different, right? But you see, India is very different. I'll give you a typical example for this. You're an American farmer and an Indian farmer were having a conversation. And the American farmer looked at the Indian farmer and said, how big is your ranch back in India? So the man looked at him and said, 50 meters one way, 50 meters the other way. Can you see the lamppost from where we're standing? That's how big my ranch is in India. Now it was his turn for the Indian to ask the American, how big is your ranch back in Texas? So he asked him, how big is your ranch back in Texas? So the man looked at him and said, well, if I take my car early in the morning, even before sunrise, and I keep driving and I keep driving and I keep driving and I keep driving, even after I come to noonday of that particular day, I would have not crossed halfway mark of my ranch back in Texas. To which the Indian looked at him and said, I'm really sorry, sir, because I also used to have a car that used to go that slow once upon a time. Now, that is culture, right? Now, while you are trying to give one message, the Indian understood it completely differently, right? Now, if you don't address it culturally, there are going to be problems. So number one, you got to understand that in India, relationships are big. What happened in the COVID? What happened in the COVID was relationships just got snapped. It just got cut, right? All of a sudden, everybody was asked to stay indoors, social distance. You're actually in a bubble. Don't even get out. That's the toughest thing for an Indian, because soon after that, you will have a lot of autopsies to be done. Because for an Indian, the energies come from meeting together. We are family driven. We are numbers driven. We need to be with people. All that is very important for us, right? But the West is evolved to be very different from us in the sense that they can work in silos. They can work alone. They can work all by themselves. They can do it all by themselves. No problem. They don't need too much of human interactions, right? And so the cultural difference between the West and India needs to be kept in mind while you're pushing the agenda of online learning, right? And the third point is online learning is fantastic When it comes to short courses, you want to help them pick up fast, get learning, get doing. Very, very critical online learning, right? But if it's something that needs to be done for mass and it's for a longer period of time, online learning may not suit, right? It is going to be that much more difficult. Having said that, with the way technology is going, you will see a lot of disruptions. And I liked your tagline in terms of disruption. So I just want to leave one thing with all of us. When disruptions disrupt you, disrupt the disruption, right? Don't let the disruption disrupt you. Come out with things that will disrupt the disruption back again. And that's what Zoom did for us, right? Who ever thought sitting in India, sitting in one part of India, you will be speaking to somebody sitting in Australia, to Mr. Francis Norman, on the same window, and actually you can do this call. Nobody even thought of it, but somebody thought about it, and that is the power of Zoom, and that's the power of technology. All right. Absolutely. So you've got to know that it evolves, it will change, but you need to keep the cultural perspective as well.
Correct. Talking about evolvement and cultural perspective, I would like to ask Mr. Francis Norman, the concept of work from home, virtual team, as Mr. John has said, that culturally Western era is more inclined towards working in loneliness or alone. They are more equipped with it. So what are your views on work from home offices, the new normal post-COVID era? How long will you think this is going to last?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew the answer to that question. I'll pick up before I try and address that just on one phrase that Mr. John said there: social distance. If I could go back 18 months, a year, to when all of this COVID started, and whoever came up with the term of social distance, and just expunge that term completely, because the social part of what's happening from all of this is just destroying so many relationships and so many communities, from people being unable to spend time we're social. Right now we are, I don't know how many other people are on this screen, but there's 6 of you here. There's another 6 across the top. This is social. We are distant, but this is social. It's the physical distance that we needed to maintain for health, not the social distance. Sorry, I had to say that. So, virtual teams. Look, we've been trying. I think as societies, we've been trying to make virtual teams to make it more accepted and acceptable to work remotely, to use video, to use Zoom, to use whatever other technologies we've had, since we had enough internet capability to allow us to do it. But there'd been all sorts of barriers in the way. The other part that we've had, certainly I can speak from the industries that I've worked with. I'm originally from the UK. I've lived in Australia for 20 plus years. I've worked in many other places around the world, but we've typically evolved a workspace where people work together in an office, where you don't really mind as much what people are doing as long as they're there. You judge them by their attendance rather than their participation and rather than their output. And we've got that so ingrained in our business practices, in our societies, in our expectations of things. When people started to say, I can do this same work, I can work from home, I can work from wherever, I can work from another country, I can work from the other side of the planet. So many people in business just said, no, we just don't do it like that. We don't have the facility for a lady when she's taking care of a baby to be able to work from home. No, you can't work from home while you're doing that. You have to be home but not working. If you're taking care of elderly parents or sick family or whatever, you can't do both things, as being the way that we've looked at things for so long. A year ago, when people started to say this pandemic is starting now to be human transmission, you need to be physically separated from each other. Suddenly all these businesses who've said, you can't do that, that's not possible, we just can't, it can't work, have said, right, now we want you to do that. We want you to take your computer home. We want you to take your work from whatever you've got. And And that has been, and I think the year that we've had working like that has made, I hope, a systemic long-term change in the way that businesses will view work into the future. That we will, I think many people will want to, I personally, I love to work in a community with people. I don't like working on my own. I like to be around other people. Same in the classroom when I'm teaching. I really, really like to have students in the room with me so I can relate to them. Some people like that, work like that. Other people just do not work as well like that. They're better off. They can be more productive working from home. They can balance their time better. So I think we will stay in some form where we can have people move around and work from different locations and work and have people, so you hire them to work in your business and they can stay living where they are.
True.
You want to hire someone from Delhi to work in Australia on a project, they can stay there. They don't have to travel here.
Right.
But we then need to work out how we work like that. And we need to go back to our working practices and our processes in our organizations and our systems and our technologies. And fundamentally, we need to be better at trusting the people that work for us, work with us, and who we work for, to assume that they're doing the right thing from the start of when they work for us until whenever they choose not to. So I hope it's a good change. If there's one good thing to come out of all of this terrible disruption around the world, the fact that we can embrace this and we can adapt to it and we can use this technology for betterment of everybody, I would like to think would be the one good thing to come from all of this.
True, that's true. I mean, like we've all evolved and understood the power of technology now. Picking up the thread from there, as you said, human connection, work culture. Mr. Jignesh Vasavada, travel and tourism industry was hit hard. Now, there has been a lot of changes otherwise in the past decade as well, but what do you think post-COVID-19? What is the situation, or how are things changing or will evolve with the travel and tourism industry?
I think he needs to be.
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Well, travel and tourism industry, I'm not directly related to it, but yes, I do have my partner who was part of the travel and tourism industry space. The interesting disruption that happened thanks to the forced COVID lockdown is that most of the travel agents operators in Gujarat have started opening snack shops. So the biggest travel guy in Gujarat has the largest food mart in the city. And surprisingly, that's been a phenomenal disruption and thing they've taken up. And how they intend to go forward is they say that whenever they have their tours operating, they'll give snacks as a part of the package. So I guess there's a brilliant innovation the way Gujaratis are known to do. And that is how the travel industry has happened. The biggest challenge that the travel industry faced was actually lack of travel, lack of aircrafts, lack of places opening up. In my case, like we realized that one of the biggest travel destination always for Indian travelers are the temples. So people can't go to temples, can't reach out to their deities, can't get the prasads, can't do the pujas and havans and various things. So we delved into the space by offering them same thing online. So we realized that by going to those places, they'll actually add to the virus, they'll add to the whole crowd, they'll add to the whole discomfort of people around them. So might as well sitting at home. Parents, especially this was very well manifest during the festivals, Diwali and Navratri, when those are times when actually people go to the temples, go out to the various matajis and kind of pay the obeisance and also kind of get their prasads of various kinds. So while I was traveling to those temples to tie up with them in those days, I realized that bang on the peak spiritual month, Somnath, which is supposed to be expecting crowds of about 2.5-3 lakhs a day, was having about 17 to 20 people inside. Most temples had 1 or 2 people inside. There was actually direct connect with deities, and because people were not traveling. So I think the whole build-up is from the point that such kind of online spaces, mediums, which will help them bind and cut off the space for traveling, are going to thrive now as we go ahead. A lot of experiential spaces, like the Statue of Unity. You can actually watch the Statue of Unity through a particular online space. So it kind of starts building up in the mind of the people that I need to travel to these places. There's a whole itinerary. People are ready with the moment and doors open, the moment flights start. People are really going to go out and start traveling and build up the all the dreams that they build up for traveling. They're going to start picking their bucket list and start going to travel. I strongly believe technology has played a fairly good role in curtailing their forced need to stay at home, and I believe eventually going to go out and break up when the moment the restrictions are lifted off.
Right, wonderful. So, continuing, as we've discussed, what were the challenges each one of us have faced, how we evolved out of it, what was the change management that we did out of it. My next question is to Mr. John. We understand that how online learning has come up, how people are evolving, how the HRs are going to deal with it. But as you belong to the training background, my question to you is that will there be a change in the skills required in management employees in the post-COVID era? Because of course, skill development is one thing, human-to-human connection, human-to-human learning is always one thing. Your peer learning is very high. But when we talk about technology, when there is no peer learning happening, how is it that is we are going to new skill sets that we all need to apply to?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I believe it will straight away impact your skill development for the future, because the disruption is so huge with, I don't know whether you got this WhatsApp, but let me share that with you. It's a very classy one. There's this question, it says, who led your technology disruption at the office? And the choices were CTO, CIO, CEO, and finally COVID. All right. Now, you know the answer, right? It has been such a huge impact that there's no other choice but to shift, right?
True.
Which means you will have to now pick up skills. Let me just give you something so simple that for us to understand. Even to anchor a program on Zoom or even do a panel discussion on Zoom, it will not come naturally to many people. A lot of people are camera shy. You know what's the biggest problem I have when I do online training? Their cameras are shut and I'm speaking to a dead wall. How can I bring my emotion, which I bring the best when I see human beings in front of me, to a situation when I now need to speak to a dead camera in front of me, right? And if you ask them to switch on the cameras, hardly anybody does, right? Now, I don't want to blame them for it because the situations, you got to understand the Indian psyche of things as well. The middle income group Indians are living in a small flat, right? Where all of them are online. All the family members are online, some fashion or form. Each of them are doing their own connects with their customers, with their office, whatever. I still have a small room. I don't have a room for myself, and I still need to make that call.
Correct.
So one needs to understand all of this. It's not like, elsewhere where you have a separate room for yourself where you can take your call, right? Now, all of that needs to be kept in mind. But let me share with you something just related to that and touch your point. In Namibia, there is a desert called the kind of Namib Desert. And in that Namib Desert, they only get 2 centimeters of rainfall every year, 2 centimeters of rainfall in that place, right? In that desert, there is a beetle that grows. And this particular beetle is called the Stenocara gracilis. It's a very, very cute beetle. I mean, cute in the sense it's intelligence. I'll tell you why. 2 centimeter rainfall, but because it's in the coastal lines of Namibia, every morning when the sun just about rises, there's a mist or fog that rises from the sea. So the beetle goes to the topmost part of that desert for the mist or fog to come into the desert, right? And it stands at an angle of 45 degrees. And when it stands at an angle of 45 degrees, the mist or the fog hits the beetle at the top of the body. And over a period of time, water particles just stand on that body. And slowly, when it becomes too big, it trickles down into the mouth of that beetle. That's how that beetle survives.
Wow.
Now, can you see the way it disrupted the disruption? Now, it may be 2 centimeters of rain, but I'll still get my water if I want to. And that's what it's saying, right? And so Peru, one of the countries who looked at and studied possibly this beetle, they have something similar in their country. They have a sheet that is put across different parts of their country, where this mist and fog comes and hits these water sheets in the morning, and it drips water into storage, and that storage can take almost 250 liters of water coming out from this mist every day, feeding 250 families, and also they use it for farming. See what's happening here? This is what we need to do. So we need to adapt to our environment. The skills will change, and if you don't change, you will be changed over a period of time. Correct. Those skills will change. The way you even engage. For example, I need to now do my job, the same job that I was doing in the office, over a call. How difficult is that? It is very difficult, right? To keep monitoring them, to keep talking to them, and keep going back over and over again. It's not the same. And the effort is much more. And to get a team rallying to do a major project is not easy on the Zoom or any other platform. But we are driven to that. And there are some teams that have pulled off some fabulous things in the last 8 to 10 months. And all credit to those teams that have done it online. It is not easy, but it's not impossible.
Absolutely. Very wonderfully put. It was such an amazing example given by Mr. John, that how disruption and how we adapt to crisis management. It is wonderful to know. Talking about crisis management, my next question is to Mr. Anshu Gupta, that how is it that you would like to tell the students that how to resolve the current crisis, or how can they of any help, or how can they help someone in need as students, professors, working individuals, professionals? As an individual, what is that they need to look at for any crisis? How can they be of help?
So, I think somewhere we all have been missing a point. Okay, we are still thinking that technology is a solution, because a lot of people think that by creating roti.com you can provide roti. It doesn't happen. We are very happy because you can order on Zomato or whatever, but we actually forget that someone physically was growing something, and then someone physically was bringing, someone cutting, someone cooking, someone delivering it at my doorstep. I'm only happy because I can really live in my cocoon and order and pay online, and I'm absolutely happy. But it's just one thing which I'm doing. Every single other thing is actually human, that way. True. I would say that this entire, and even what Francis said, I've been saying from the day one, that how can you even call it a social distancing? Social distancing is one of the worst term, I believe, in the last few decades we have ever seen. But rather, you need to be socially much more closer. It is, but the virus also exposed that how distanced we are socially. And that is the crux of it. If I see, for all these students, for all of us to go forward, that what kind of fabric is there in the society? Like even in India, the millions of people who were on the roads didn't actually trust none of the government, none of the leader or the corporate or the institution or the neighbor, and they were walking. So do we want to build the society or tackle these kind of disruptions which will keep coming in life? Fine. I mean, it's not that it didn't come earlier. When Bihar is flooded every year, when West Bengal is flooded every year, there is a disruption in life of those millions of people every year. It is not noticed by us, that's a different issue. But it is still a disruption. And they have learned how to live actually for 9 months and then shift for 3 months, or suffer in a major way, or lose everything and then rebuild in the month of August. Somehow, because life goes on with whatever way. So if we want to handle the crisis in future, if we want to mitigate the crisis in future, I think we have to invest a lot in the fabric of the society. We need to be answerable to ourselves that what has happened, that the people who made homes or houses for me remained homeless, and people who have been feeding us on a daily basis. And because of that, we are able to do all these Zoom calls or whatever, what we are, talking about the innovation and the good thing, right? But this is just, again, the same crowd which often meet at the airport, right? Not the crowd which actually makes sure that the airports are built. that way.
Right.
So if we are not rethinking about the society and the way we have been behaving, all these disasters will keep coming. We will keep organizing Zoom, in next disaster, some other element will come, some other technology will come. Please remember that just before COVID, large number of us were actually looking for the de-addiction centers for our kids for the gadgets. We were so sick and tired that they're totally
Right.
into computers and laptops and mobile. And now we are praising that so much.
Yeah. And
So
look
the
at us, we've joined
students,
the battle.
absolutely. So it's not the truth. What John, what Francis, everyone is saying that most important part is the physical connect. Most important part is looking each other. Most important part in my life is hug. I was in
Absolutely.
Bihar till yesterday. For about 6 days, I was just traveling in the field, and it's so sad to see that even there, in many parts of the remote villages, kids are sitting next to each other but they are not playing kanchas and gilli danda, which used to be such beautiful games in our childhood. They are also busy on their mobiles and doing some Indian part of the PUBG or whatever.
Huh.
How, what kind of society are we thinking about, and what is PUBG and all these games are teaching you? There is one powerful man and there are other powerless, exactly what Indian movies used to show us. So
True.
all of us really need to spend more time with the people and see what is the reality all about. It's not about the basmati right, but it's all about how
True.
how that rice really grows.
Absolutely. Technology should not discipline us. We need to use technology with a lot of discipline. I think this is what we need to do. Coming back to Mr. Jignesh Visavada. Now, post-pandemic, people have really thought to change careers. Job, they want to quit their job and follow the heart, follow their passion. How do you think this is going to affect? Do you think people are going to follow the path of following their heart? What do you have to say?
One of the interesting thing, I was speaking to a psychologist who was here. She was telling me that this lockdown has forced people to look inwards. So they realized a lot of things that planned and put up for the future has to be done now, because they never know when can a pandemic strike and what can happen to themselves, them or the people around them or the things around them. So her assumption was that there'll be a lot of people who will go out and actually start, instead of building a list, start living the list, which means following the heart and the
Fantastic.
profession they want to take up, start doing things they never thought they thought they'll do it about 10 years from now, 15 years from now, or when they start retiring, they'll start doing things, traveling, and so on and so forth. So one of the
Right.
biggest things I believe is happening. Another sad part, which is a reality also, is the fact that people are not forced, are not leaving the organization. They have been forced to leave. There's a lot of
Hmm.
job cuts that have happened, which has forced people to start looking. I mean, for all the accomplishments that I claim to have and have multiple awards and so on and so forth, I was still asked to go. Now, in my
True.
case, it was a brilliant jolt to my self-respect or an ego, and that I can never be asked to go. I'm fairly indispensable, and yet it happened. And this project that I've taken up, the Thastu Live, a spiritual technology and venture, was something I'd been conceptualizing for the past 4 years and wanting to do it and putting it off next year, maybe when the funds come, and it's just started off. I realized this is the best time. And if this is not the right time, no other time will be the right time. Similarly, I've known a lot of friends who have actually, thanks to the fact that they've been asked to go, have started getting to writing, getting painting, getting into starting the YouTube channel, starting the podcasts. There are a lot of people who are doing that. So I think yes, it is kind of made people think, look inwards, and realize that there will never be a better time than now.
True.
No other business, nothing is. Initially, it was said it was no things are recession proof, things are X proof, Y proof, but pandemic has
True.
made everything. Nothing is pandemic proof, including
Correct.
temples, be it food, even educational institutes. People would invest into schools, saying that okay, even in recession, people will still pay for recession for the school studies, and yet they realize the
Hmm.
schools can actually be shut for months together and they can do nothing about it. So in that
Hmm.
scenario, yes, there's a lot of push from people who are really now listening to their hearts more, and
Hmm.
most of them trying to pursue it, and then a lot of them are pursuing it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, Mr. Francis Norman, my question is to you. As Mr. Jignesh Vasavada said, in the work culture, a lot of people were asked to leave, forced to leave because of the situation. How do you think, will the post-COVID era require managers or business owners to reimagine their leadership skills or methods? And if yes, to what extent?
Oh, I hope it will. I hope it will. I hope it will give people the shock, if you like, and the impetus that they need to go back into, and I'll go right back to some of the early comments from some of the other speakers as well, that the culture is so important in what we do. And one of the things that I reflected on during the research that I did around the virtual teams, so much of what we look at from a management perspective is not of our culture. It's not of my culture. It's not of your culture. It's of a culture of another country that none of us sitting here actually are actually from. Most of the management material that we teach people comes out of the US. And it works, sort of, I think, in their country, in parts, but it doesn't work everywhere else. And yet we've been teaching it as though one size fits all, as though that one way to do things is the only way and the best way. So I would dearly like to think that when we get to the end of this, whenever that may be, let's hope it's soon, not late, that when we get to the point where we can go back to having physical interaction, when we can start to emerge from our confines, our COVID constructed confines, and we can get out and we can spend time together, but that we still have this flexibility around where people work and how people work and the times that people choose to work, that the managers and the leaders of these organizations, and I think a lot of it will come to the leaders of the organizations, and it also will come back to the people who teach the managers and teach the leaders of these organizations, that they need to look at life in a different way. They need to look at it and say, it's not all about the American way of doing business. It's not all about whether you met your financial returns for the last month or the last quarter. It's about what you invested in your people. It's about the quality of the work environment and the society that your business, that your organization is, and the society that organization is working in and supporting. We need to get, I think we really, really do need to get to that point. And I would dearly love to think that people, when we start to emerge from this, have learned a lot, that what they'd learned before is not all that they need to know, and that they can learn things through experience as they go forward, and they can change the way that they work, and that we can have real parity when we're working with people around the world. That we can work, as peers with people wherever they may be around the world, in a much more flexible, much more open, much more collaborative, friendly, enjoyable way. And then, yes, we can then enjoy our lives a little bit more and be a bit more relaxed and a little bit less, hopefully a little bit less stressed, and take the time to care about our fellow humans as we're going along. Because putting COVID aside, we will have many, many more challenges after this that we'll all have to deal with. And we've just got to keep learning from them.
Right. It was a fantastic discussion. I think if I sum it up here, I would like to say that it's important that we all start to reimagine learning, reimagine our skill sets. How are we going to redevelop ourselves in this age of technology? We should also be thankful to technology, for it is bringing people on one platform from across the countries, across the globe, which is one big advantage to all of us. But yes, finding our own rainbow in disruption, finding our own spark, and how we will manage the crisis, how we have to adapt to all the changes around us, and also how can we follow our heart to become passionate to whatever we want to do in our lives. So I think, yes, human connection is one thing which will never, ever can replace anything. Technology is never going to replace human connection. Human learning, peer learning, collaboration, end of the day, we all belong to the animal kingdom. And this is how we are going to learn how to survive, fight for our skill sets, fight for our being, and yet be always imaginative and come across with new thinking skills. Thank you so much, all of you, for being a part of the show. I'll hand it over to Ms. Vinita. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll also request if all the panelists could leave some parting note, as in Anshu sir, each one of you could just say, what should we take, as in what should the students learn ultimately, or where should they see their future now? What are the things that they could incorporate in their lives? If each of you could give us some parting words of advice for all the student community who's watching this. We could start with Anshu sir, probably.
So I think, in my opinion, there is so much to learn in the last 1 year. It has actually taught us that 4 t-shirts are good enough to survive and do the best possible Zoom calls also, and become a speaker. Right? It has taught us. I went through the COVID journey myself way back in May, and then 7 more members in the family and a lot of colleagues, because it's a big team. And we understood that how important it is to have a good, good time with the family. Good friends around, and not just the knowledge of Google, but the knowledge of practical part also. So in my opinion, the virus has given us a chance, and this is what I'll tell all the students, because these are the students who study here and then become the opinion leader in the government, in the corporate, in the NGOs, wherever. So it's very important for them to understand the reality of this nation, this world, to be with the people, because if you are dependent on Google is a very selective reading. When you type distressed farmer, Google will throw 1,000 articles on distressed farmers. You never type a skilled farmer, right? So how do you really change this narrative that Google is not the end of the world? Google has just come, a few years back. A whole lot of people who have made big changes, who have made big fortunes, made it without Google. And I'm 100% pro technology. Fine, it's not that I'm against technology, but I should say that technology is a means, right? As all of us know, technology cannot be the destination. So for all the people, just in a nutshell, as soon as it is opened, it is the time to travel. It is the time to be with people. It is the time to understand that a large number of people have much bigger, better skills, who have learned it, with their hands. Also, people who have survived in this COVID in limited resources, and they're still able to survive. I think they should become our teacher. That how do you really, much more than me, those people can tell the people what is resilience all about. How do you manage your resources, right? How do you really deal with those disruption? I was still very lucky to have my resources, a pakka house, a separate washroom when I was going through COVID. I was not forced to go to a nearby government hospital. And the last part, every single thing which as a society we ignored, and I am taking students as fellow human being, not just as a student. So every single thing, right from the public health center to the ASHA workers, to the government hospitals, to the municipality worker, every single thing which we ignored worked. Every single thing which we invested heavily, right from the biggest possible flyovers to the biggest possible cars to the fanciest airport, are still not working. I think that's the learning which we all need to understand, that micro matters. And if you have to reach macro, do the macro level thing of micro things. The small really matters. If we ignore that, create the best possible infrastructure in terms of, 3-lane flyovers and 4-lane flyovers, and, all the airports, everything is stopped. Everything, you can have 3 cars standing in front of you, but you are forced to remain inside your home. And the person who is coming on cart with vegetable, who has just 4 wheels, no engine, is much more important than your fanciest car. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Can we have parting words from John, sir?
All right, so just trying to put down some notes so that I don't forget mentioning them. Number one, I think somebody made this beautiful comment. There are 2 important days in your life: the day you were born and the day you realize why you were born. All right, that's very important for us to understand. Number 2, everybody born on this planet comes with certain strengths or talents. It's up to us to invest in them. Am I audible? Because I'm just getting disconnected on the network. So all of us have some talent or not. Everybody on this call, whether you know it or not, you have a talent. The question is finding out that talent and investing in that talent is absolutely critical. All right. And so you got to understand that each of us, sometimes we look at somebody else and say, wow, I wish I could be that person. Forgetting that God has made each of us unique and wired us with gifts and talents that you already have. You don't need to look at somebody else. You already have them. The question is, are you looking at yourself so hard that you can actually look at those talents and invest in them? So I would encourage young people to understand that they have talents, find out what their talents are, invest in it, because the natural way of getting to be successful is when you invest in your talents. Thank you.
Agreed, sir. Absolutely. Continuing to what John sir said about talent, I think it's equally right about following your dreams, because both of that takes a lot of guts. And that is something maybe Jignesh sir could advise our students to talk about. Jignesh sir, that's something you've done. So please tell them it takes a lot of courage to take that first step. If you could give them what did it feel like?
Perfect. I think the biggest analogy that the students will understand is that of cricket. The fact is that you just have to face every ball. You need to be aware that any ball can come wherever, can hit the body, can be a bouncer, can be a full toss, can be a slow ball, can be whatever. So life will keep throwing various kinds of balls in front of you. You just need to sit down and analyze every ball, take the ball as it comes, and be ready to hit a six whenever required. So I think pandemic was something we never anticipated. So like the Indian Australian team never anticipated that they'll be hitting the body of the batsman, and yet it happened. So we just had to take the body blows, wait for the right ball, and hit it out of the park. The interesting thing is everybody's going to die, and that's for sure. There's no point worrying about what's going to happen in the future, but live the present, live with people you love, and more importantly, love and live what you do. That's very critical. I mean, there's no point postponing anything for the future. It just doesn't. We just don't know what the future is and when the future is going to end. So in that scenario, yes, and of course, do your prayers from home and get the prasads from my portal. Sorry, I had to say that.
Mute.
Absolutely lovely. I really wanted some real close people to hear this because I think they've also got absolutely paranoid with the whole COVID thing. Thank you so much, sir. Francis, sir, if we could have a parting word from you, sir.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the cricket thing, I'm pleased to say I do not support the Australian cricket team. So any digs at the Australian cricket is fine by me. You go for it. I would say if I was speaking to the students, it would be that what is happening now is temporary. It will pass. There will be a future in there. That this current year and a half, 2 years, which has been incredibly stressful for a lot of students, because they feel like, I know a lot of students I deal with feel like their lives have been put on hold for a period of time, and all these future plans that they had have been disrupted. Everybody's in the same position. So your future will be what your future is. It will be maybe different from what you planned it to be. Maybe when you come back after all of this, you'll have spent some time reflecting on things and think, oh, well, I actually want to go in a different direction now. I've thought about my life. I've thought about where I want my life to be. I want to travel, or I want not to. I want to maybe stay at home rather than go and work somewhere else. Maybe I can use some of this technology to let me have the life I want, rather than have the technology force me to have the life that I think I want, because that's what I see others having. So I think I'm an optimist in so many ways, that this will pass by. It's not been nice. It's not been pleasant for people, but it will eventually pass by. We'll get back to having opportunities in our future where we can be a little bit more open. We can move around. We've been so fortunate. Western Australia, we've had very, very, very few cases, fatalities. But the penalty we've paid is our borders have been closed for a year. So I've not been able to leave Australia and go and visit my family in other parts of the world. Other places, though, you see them and you think, well, my price has been so small compared to what other communities have had to go through. So I think take the time, reflect, make the most of what you've got, enjoy being with the family that you're with while you have them now, but don't let the impact of what's happening now damage your plans for your future too badly.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to request Director Dr. Shefali Dani to please give her thank you speech to all the panel members.
Thank you so much, Vinita. Good morning to all the panel members. Myself, Dr. Shefali Dani, on behalf of GLS University, express my sincere thanks to all the panel members for sparing your time for the panel discussion and sharing your views on the theme Harnessing Disruption. A big thank you to Anshu Gupta sir for emphasizing the fact that disruption can be handled better if the social fabric is strengthened. Technology should not become master while countering disruption. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for John for his explanation of disruption to be addressed culturally and to find for everyone why we are born. Further, we are grateful to Dr. Francis Norman for demonstrating how education cannot continue without students permanently. I may like to express our sincere thanks to Vignesh Vasavda for highlighting the fact that prompt response to disruption enables one to handle it effectively. At the same time, sir, you are absolutely right that one should live in the present. I also wish to express my gratitude to Gitash Kaur for moderating the session so nicely and so smoothly. Thank you, ma'am, for being a moderator for us. Overall, panel members have agreed on the importance of physical connect. All of you have suggested that disruption can be handled effectively when social, cultural, and psychological dimensions are taken into consideration. Our students will be greatly inspired by the ideas you dwell on the insight you shared. I am grateful to all panel members. We thank you for being with us this morning. It has been a great pleasure, and I would like to, or I wish that in future we all can meet physically in GLS University campus. Thank you all. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Vinita ma'am.